After Conor Murphy's life ended in Thailand, one of his friends tried to explain the strangest part of the story. YouTuber Tony Huge said Conor had been experimenting with gold, not wearing it or selling it or designing new jewelry though. According to Tony, Conor believed that if gold could get into every cell in his body, it might change his physical abilities, his consciousness, and even his connection to the metaphysical world. Tony claimed Conor had just injected a very large amount of gold. He also said friends had warned him and they were nervous about his behavior. They thought it was dangerous. But Conor was not an ordinary fitness influencer by then. He was a man who had spent years turning himself into a character, and when people told him he was acting strangely, Tony said Conor would answer, "I'm just acting. Calm down. It's an act." By July 2026, Conor was no longer just the shirtless prankster who had once dominated fitness YouTube. He was deep in looksmaxxing, biohacking, spiritual ideas, extreme self-experimentation, and an unfinished documentary about that world. Then, in Samut Prakan, Thailand, police responded to reports of a man behaving erratically at a luxury rental property. Witnesses said Conor entered a nearby lake, swam until he appeared exhausted, and disappeared beneath the surface. In this video, I will share Conor's full story and reveal the disturbing truth about his world. Here we go. Conor first became famous for a much simpler kind of transformation. He was from Austin, Texas, and before YouTube became his life, he studied computational mathematics and economics at Southwestern University in Georgetown. That part of his background is worth mentioning because Conor was never seen by those around him as just a bodybuilder with a camera. Even people who criticized him often described him as sharp, articulate, and able to make strange ideas sound convincing. His fitness story began a long way back. In one of his early videos, Conor said that when he was younger, he had not been the coolest person in his class. He wanted to change that, and weight training became the method. He reportedly started lifting at around 13 after getting access to a weight room. That origin became the foundation of his brand. Conor did not just sell fitness as health. He sold it as social rebirth. Build the body, change the face people see, change the way the world reacts. When he started uploading to YouTube in 2016, he understood the platform almost immediately. His videos were not boring workouts. They were moments built to gain massive amounts of views and attention. The fake shirt trick, the Planet Fitness videos, the social experiments where his physique became the punchline and the product at the same time. It worked. His main channel grew to more than 2 million subscribers, and his wider audience across YouTube and Instagram reached into the millions. He became a sponsored athlete, launched apparel, collaborated with other creators, and became one of the recognizable faces of that era of fitness YouTube. Tony Huge later said Conor inspired young men around the world to get in shape. He described traveling with him and seeing people approach Conor to say they had started training because of his videos. That was the clean version of the story. A bullied or insecure young man rebuilds himself, becomes famous and motivates others. But Conor later admitted there was another layer. The confident man on camera was not exactly the man off camera. The problem with Conor Murphy's downfall is that the warning signs were hidden inside the same behavior that made him famous. Conor had always performed. His early videos were built on stage situations, exaggerated confidence, public reactions, and social tension. Later, he openly explained that the hyper-confident version of himself was not the whole truth. It was a character he had created. That would be strange enough on its own. But, according to Tony Huge, it became a real issue in Conor's final years. Tony said that when friends told Conor he seemed off, Conor would push back by saying he was acting. Tony described it plainly. When we would tell Conor, "Oh, he's acting crazy," he'd be like, "Yeah, I know, I'm acting. I'm an actor." That meant every concern had a built-in escape hatch. If Connor behaved in a way that worried people, he could frame it as content. If someone challenged him, he could make them feel as if they simply did not understand the performance. Greg Doucette made a similar point after Connor's death. He said Connor was notorious for staging certain events, and that even while watching Tony's video, part of him wondered whether the entire story could somehow be another stunt. That uncertainty was kind of built in. His public image had trained people not to trust the obvious. His audience had seen him act bizarre, then explain it away. His friends had seen him switch between strange behavior and sudden clarity. Tony said that sometimes Connor could be acting his absolute craziest, but if confronted, he could become sober and sharp and smart and well-spoken. So the question became difficult. Was Connor losing control or proving he still had it? By the time people knew the answer, it was too late. As Connor moved away from ordinary fitness content, his world became more extreme. He started speaking more about consciousness, spirituality, yoga, self-reflection, and alternate states. He also became connected to looksmaxxing and biohacking. Looksmaxxing is the pursuit of maximizing appearance. Biohacking is the attempt to optimize physical or mental performance through routines, supplements, diets, substances, and experimental methods. For Connor, those ideas seemed to merge with the original promise of his channel. Fitness had once been the tool for transformation. Now transformation appeared to mean something much bigger. TMZ reported that before his death, Connor had been involved in a documentary project focused on looksmaxxing and biohacking. Sources told TMZ that a production crew had already completed at least one filming trip to Thailand with another planned. According to that report, Connor had said the documentary was being made for Hulu, but Tony's account went much further than ordinary biohacking. He said Connor believed gold could change him. According to Tony, Connor had a theory that if gold entered every cell in the body, it could affect conductivity, physical ability, and connection to the metaphysical world. Tony claimed Connor went to gold shops, bought gold bars, necklaces, and bracelets, and used water, electrodes, electricity, and frequency in what Tony described as a calculated protocol. Tony said he did not know every detail because he was not interested in injecting gold into himself. Then he added, "Maybe I'm just a level 9 biohacker, and Connor was a level 10 biohacker." That line sounds ridiculous, but Tony did not present it as a joke. He said he and other friends were nervous. He worried that gold, especially at nanoparticle size, might not be easy for the human body to remove. He also claimed Connor believed the experiment was working. Tony said that whenever friends challenged him, Connor would demonstrate some new ability or explain that he was developing what he called superhuman powers. This is where the story becomes dangerous to simplify. There is no confirmed forensic finding in the available reporting that gold caused Connor's death. Police were still waiting for autopsy and toxicology results. But Tony's claims are relevant because they show that Connor was now living in a world all of his own. A world where fitness, spirituality, performance, chemistry, beauty, golf, and self-belief had fused into one experiment. Tony Huge was not just reacting as a distant commentator. He said he had seen Connor recently, filmed with him, collaborated with him, and spoken to him shortly before everything happened. He also said he had seen the gold setup that Connor was working with. According to Tony, Connor had been gradually increasing the amount he used. He claimed Connor had started with smaller amounts, then moved further. Tony said he had just injected a very large amount of gold and described it as Connor titrating up his dose. Then he gave the line that makes the whole story feel almost unreal. Tony claimed Connor had put like a whole necklace into his body. Again, that is Tony's claim. It is not a confirmed medical finding, but as a witness to Connor's final mindset, it is important. Tony said Connor believed the gold was linked to superhuman abilities. He said Connor was testing himself through sprinting, climbing, jumping, lifting, and golf. Golf, according to Tony, was not a side interest. It was one of Connor's obsessions. He said Connor wanted to become a professional golfer and believed his biohacking could help him change the game. Tony described Connor as someone with huge dreams, someone who hated being told he could not do something, and someone who could make people feel as if concern was just negativity. That created a terrible problem for friends. Tony said he warned Connor. He told him the experiment seemed dangerous, but he also admitted he did not push as hard as he now wondered if he should have. He compared it to trying to confront someone with a serious problem when they insist they have it under control. At one point, Tony remembered a recent night when Connor was acting strangely and wanted to ride on the back of his motorbike. Tony said he hesitated because Connor seemed off. Connor answered that it was all an act. Tony let him ride and Connor behaved perfectly. Afterwards, Connor basically pointed to that as proof. He was in control. That is the trap at the center of the story. Connor had spent years making performance part of his identity, so when he seemed unstable, he could still prove, at least for a moment, that he was choosing it. Tony said, "I thought he was in control, but by the time he recorded the video, he was clearly questioning that." He said Connor had become more abnormal than even his normal self. He wondered whether the gold had caused something to start misfiring in Connor's brain. Greg Doucette reacted to this with disbelief, saying Tony spoke more about Connor injecting gold than almost anything else. Greg also pointed out that when someone is behaving erratically, there are many possible explanations. Substances, self-experimentation, a mental health episode, or something else entirely. The final online material only made the story more unsettling. 6 days before Connor's time on this earth ended, he uploaded "RIP Elon Muscular." The caption began, "Obituary pending," before explaining that the video was a satirical acting performance and should not be replicated. It seems that Connor knew the material could be misread, but again, maybe that was all part of the show. He was still placing a frame around the chaos. He was still saying, in effect, this is performance. By itself, strange content does not prove anything. Connor's channel had already moved far beyond normal fitness videos into what could be seen as full-on entertainment. His audience now simply expected the instability, satire, spirituality, and provocation. But now the words "obituary pending" stopped looking like just another caption. The disclaimers stopped feeling like ordinary internet weirdness, and the title, "RIP Elon Muscular," became part of a final sequence nobody could cleanly explain. That was why even Greg Doucette said he messaged Connor, asking if he was still with us. He had seen enough influencer drama, enough staged moments, and enough Connor Murphy content to hesitate before accepting the news as real. In most cases, that would sound absurd. With Connor, it was part of the problem. On July 7, 2026, Thai police responded to reports of a man behaving erratically at a luxury residential property in Samut Prakan near Bangkok. According to Chaos Odd English, Connor had been staying at a rented lakeside house with his 22-year-old girlfriend, identified only as B. The property was reportedly worth 22 million baht and rented for 35,000 baht a month. Before the drowning, witnesses described a sequence of increasingly unusual behavior. A security guard told police that Connor returned to the neighborhood in a hired vehicle and reportedly tried to give the driver 1,000 baht. He then allegedly approached another resident's car asking for a ride. The guard warned the driver not to pick him up. After that, Connor reportedly became agitated, shouted, rolled on the pavement, and raised his hands as if praying. When police arrived, he ran into the village and entered the lake. Witnesses said he swam until he appeared exhausted, then disappeared beneath the surface. Chaos Odd reported that witnesses did not enter the water because the lake was more than 10 meters deep. Rescue divers were called, and after around 30 minutes of searching, Connor was found about 20 meters from shore. An initial examination found no signs of assault. His body was sent for a post-mortem examination. Inside the rented property, police reportedly found extensive damage. Black and yellowish paint had been splashed through the house. including on furniture, decorations, and electrical appliances. B reportedly said the damage appeared to have happened overnight while she was asleep in another room. She said Connor had seemed normal before the incident, and that she had never seen him use drugs while they were living together. Police also reportedly found 2 unused syringes and unidentified white pills in Connor's vehicle. Was this connected to substances? Was it connected to self-experimentation? Was it a mental health crisis? Was it some combination of factors? At the time of reporting, full autopsy and toxicology results were still pending. The only confirmed endpoint was the lake. The cleanest version of this story is also the least satisfying. Connor Murphy drowned in Thailand after witnesses reported erratic behavior. There were no initial signs of assault. Police were still waiting on full forensic results. Everything beyond that has to be handled carefully. Tony Huge claimed Connor had been injecting gold and chasing superhuman abilities. Greg Doucette repeated those claims while stressing uncertainty and asking whether substances, self-experimentation, mental health, or performance had played a role. But the most disturbing part is not any single theory, it is the pattern. Connor became famous by transforming himself into a character. Then the character kept evolving until even the people around him struggled to know what was real. And honestly, I question whether Connor knew what was real too.